The Indiana Fever have qualified for the WNBA playoffs.
That's big.
It's big. It's the first time in 7 years. They had gone something like 13, 14 years in a row making the playoffs, and then Tamika Catchings retired, and they had not made the playoffs since then. A couple of years ago, they only won 5 games. One thing I noticed, CJ, this is the way the media works and the way the internet works. All these headlines about the Fever making the playoffs include Caitlin Clark's name in the headline.
What do you think we're going to do?
Caitlin Clark, that one we just showed, Caitlin Clark's Fever make the playoffs. ESPN, Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever qualify for WNBA playoffs.
This show will be titled
Caitlin Clark makes the playoffs.
Yeah. Caitlin Clark is a sports phenom. She is what is driving and what has been driving a lot of sports discourse and a lot of sports clicks, views, listeners since this summer started, since she came into the league.
I've watched Caitlin Clark sort of tangentially the last couple of years. You know, I watched the run they made in the NCAA tournament this year, and I watched some of the games this season. Actually, on Saturday, I watched. It must have been Sunday afternoon. I watched the Wings versus the Fever game that was on TV, and Nancy Lieberman was announcing, and I thought, oh, I didn't know she was still doing the games. Come to find out, there's this whole thing happening on Twitter because Cheryl Swoops is normally the announcer, and she got pulled off the game, so Lieberman stepped in and did it, and then they were on. Nancy Lieberman was on the Stephen A. Smith podcast. Like, there's all this drama and stuff all going around Caitlin Clark and other things, and like it all involves Caitlin Clark.
All drama. When you say
her
involved,
name,
it's her name.
She's not involved.
It's not her.
No,
Caitlin Clark has been super.
She's been above the whole
gracious
thing. Yeah,
the entire time since the eyeballs emerged on her, and we decided, okay, we're going to do this with this one. We're either going to hate her or we're going to despise her. Nobody's going to be in the middle on what she is and what she isn't. And she has, to her credit, been above that, like you said, and handled it really, really well. She is, I think, averaging about 18 points something.
Yeah, she's the second
game.
leading scorer.
Leading assist woman in the W this season. The Fever, since the break, since the Olympics/All-Star break, I think they're like 6-1, 7-1 in that span. Which is crazy. All she needed was just a moment to rest, and then a moment to watch film and figure out where she needed to be, and everybody else on that team as well, though Mitchell and Boston and Hull and the rest of them, figure it out. Like, hey, just give us a minute to watch some film and fully like get a practice together where we aren't playing every other day because of Caitlin Clark. We know that we're always on TV, and the W was trying to capitalize on the Caitlin Clark name and money.
Like we
early
are
in the season, like we are, and they said, "Hey, all right, we got this break, 2-week, 3-week break," and they come back and have been killing it. The way that Aaliyah Boston in the high post, we talk about it time and time again. The way that not only she's able to finish, but her passing ability is remarkable. You throw Mitchell's ability to hit threes, Hull's ability to make threes, and then you got Caitlin Clark driving the whole thing. This Fever team is way ahead of schedule from where I thought they'd be. I was like, oh, it's going to take a season and a half at least for them to figure everything out. And no, they figured it out quick.
This is clearly like the best team she's played on, right? Because on that Iowa team, yes, they went to the Final 2 championship game and all that, but she had to do everything. She scored. She was the best player on that team. And now on this team, she has teammates where she trusts them and she gets them the ball and they can score. She doesn't have to be the focal point of everything. And then when she gets doubled, she's cool. She passes off to whoever. That Dallas game the other day, they were down 10 in the third quarter, and I'm like, oh no, like this is over. And they came back and won. Like they were calm, they made their way back, played into it. I said on Gary's show, when she was playing on Iowa last year, like it reminded me of Kobe Bryant, the way he used to play, where on those bad Laker teams where Kobe was like, all right, I got to do everything. And he was scoring and handling the ball and get double teamed. He would still shake free and find a way to get a shot up and make it most of the times. Now somebody in the chat the other day said she plays more like Steve Nash now, which is an interesting comparison I hadn't really thought about. But she, she's so good at setting up the teammates and finding people, and to be at the middle of this whole discourse and be sort of the focal point of it, whether you want to be or not, cannot be fun. But she's handled it with aplomb, and I think it's been kind of cool to watch. And I'm happy for the Fever. Made the playoffs.
From 2017 to 2023, the Fever, you could argue, worst team in professional sports. 58 and 174 in that span.
2022, they went 5-31.
3 of those seasons, they finished dead last. 3 of those, 6 seasons, they finished dead last in the W. You brought it up. They only won 5 games one of those seasons. And the only time they didn't lose 20 games or more in that 2017 to 2023 stretch was in 2020. And that was only because there were only 22 games that year because it was shortened because of COVID, right? So this is a franchise that the past 6 years, they've been abysmal. And Caitlin Clark has come in her first year and been a large piece, a large reason why they have gotten into the playoffs, and they are near 500. I think they might be just over 500. And not only are they in the playoffs, they're the 6th seed. Like, they're comfortably in the playoffs.
Here's my question. It looks like the WNBA playoffs, making the playoffs always sounds great. It seems like it might be kind of a low bar. There's 12 teams, right, in the WNBA. So 8 of the teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there's 7 of the spots are now clinched, and they are fighting for the final spot. The 2 teams fighting for the final spot are both 11 and 22.
Yeah.
So being 5 and 31 isn't that far off from 11 and 22.
But you're not 11 and 22 though.
I guess.
Like that's been
that is twice as many wins.
That's been the way that it's been set up for a while now in the W, where you're getting 6 to 8 teams into the playoffs in a 12-team league, and the Indiana Fever hadn't been close to that.
Yeah.
They hadn't been around there. They've been easily the worst franchise in this sport, and for them to not be that bad, for them to be actually kind of good, and again, one loss since they've gotten back from the Olympics/All-Star break. That is impressive. And they've got wins over some of the good teams. They got wins over the Sun. Come on, man. The Sun are right there in the 2 seed right now. And that could be that's Jessica's first round dream right there, to get the Sun versus the Fever in the first round.
Yeah.
We saw it a whole bunch early on in the season. The Sun are, I do believe, 3-1 against the Fever this season. But the Fever won the last one, and this isn't the same Fever. The Fever right now aren't the Fever to start the season. It will be fun. It's going to be fun to see them match up against either the Sun or the Lynx. I look forward to seeing it.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.